hope everyone is well. My name is Masako Muntu, and I will be your host for this Q&A for today. To our guest, I'm accompanied by my executive team, as you can see, who will later introduce themselves throughout the call. Firstly, we would like to thank you for taking this time to engage with us and to ultimately educate us about what strategic management consultant is all about. Without further ado, to our guest, kindly can you introduce yourself and just tell us what is it that you do and who you are?
Okay. My name is Tandu Olo, or people call me Tandu. I am a management consultant or strategy consultant right now. I went to Wits University. I studied finance and investments and went to a consulting firm. I started in year 2019 and then just moved into a bigger firm sometime last year. So I've just been doing management consulting for the past 3 years. And I was part of the FinForum when it was still called FIDS at Wits University.
Oh, so you're one of us. Interesting. Yeah. So Tandu, can you please briefly explain your roles, your tasks and responsibilities as a management consultant?
Okay, so I think in order to put it into context so that you understand how the role fits in, I'll just give a brief overview of what all the roles are. So within a management consulting firm, you get a whole hierarchy where it starts as the business analyst, and then you have the senior business analyst, and then associates who are responsible for they're transitioning to management. And then you get a manager, an engagement manager, so they manage the project. And then you get a principal who helps out the partners to get more business, to structure projects. And then you get the partners who are responsible as subject area experts and also help guide projects at a very high level. So I'm a senior business analyst. My responsibility is to ensure that the analysis is done. I work a lot with the analysts to do a lot of analysis of information that informs the insights that we eventually package as recommendations to our clients. I also am responsible for ensuring that client engagements continue and presenting some of the outputs of the work that we do for our clients. So that is, in short, what a senior business analyst does.
Interesting. I think Umpa will take it from here.
Okay.
Hi guys, hi everyone. I think first I should introduce myself, right? Okay, hi, I'm Mpumalova. I am studying financial accounting sciences at UNISA. I'm a third-year student. I think my question that I'd like to pose to Utando Butle is that what are some of the current trends and issues around the industry that we should be aware of, especially as students or as people or as students who are interested in knowing about the industry? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks for the question. So management consulting is an industry. It's part of the advisory industry. So we work a lot with clients to solve a lot of their problems from more of a financial perspective, helping them get their profits or launch new products or enter new markets and things like that. And so some of the trends that we've seen, with COVID, a lot of the travel stopped. So it's an industry that's known a lot for travel. So the travel stopped, but now it's beginning to open up again. I myself was in the Middle East for the past 3 weeks. I just got back this past weekend. So it is a trend that is opening up now, and you see a lot of travel happening again. Another trend is that we've seen, but I think is quite common in many other industries, is the whole attention to mental health. So a lot of people, so you'll have representatives that will ensure that everyone's mental health is in place, and that people are not actually going under in the job, that they are maintaining a healthy, balanced life. And that's particularly sometimes a challenge in our industry because it's known to be you work long hours, a lot more than the average job. So it's one of the trends that we've seen quite a lot. And one last trend, I guess, is people don't stay in one company for a long time. So you'll find that in other sectors, people stay for about 5 years, 6 years. What usually happens in our space is that a person will stay for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and then they usually get poached by a company to go and head their strategy. Or so it's a lot of intense work, but people don't stay very long, and that's a trend that we've seen quite a lot. So.
Okay. So long hours, how long is long hours?
I mean, so the average work day is about 8 hours a day, right? So for us, on average, you work 12 to 14 hours, but it can vary quite a lot, right? Depends on what project you're on, what timelines you're on, and how big your team is. So if you have a big team, usually a lot of stuff is delegated. But if you're in a smaller team on a more intense project for specific topics, then you might find yourself working longer hours, but you don't work weekends, you work just during the week mostly. Yeah.
Okay. I think Mahlazi is up next.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Masego. Like she has already introduced me, I'm Mahlazi Matabule, and I am a BCom Investment Management student at the University of Pretoria. So my question to you would be, how important are grades for getting into strategic and management consulting? Moreover, if a student doesn't have the best grades, what advice would you give them if they still want to choose this career?
Yeah, so I would say that, and I probably should have mentioned it in the trends. So they struggle to recruit a lot because they set the bar very high from a grades perspective. So they want to know what your grades were in high school, what your grades were in university, consistent good grades, although we know that life happens. So you'll find on application, on the application page in different management consulting firms' websites, that they say, we don't want you to have failed more than once. I think it's because they make leeway because things happen while you're in university, but generally you're expected to perform well. You have to have done better than the average, so above your 60s, like high 60s and 70s and 80s. Usually those are the people that get through to interviews. Before they even interview, they need to know that you've demonstrated quite well there. And not only that, you have to have demonstrated leadership outside of the classroom. So you have to have led FinForum, for example. You have to have demonstrate leadership, take initiative, and also show some entrepreneurial drive from your parts, because it's a big part of what we do. You have to have an entrepreneurial instinct because you sit with a client and you have to help them think about their business and how to grow it or solve some of the problems that they have. And so that should be something that you're doing outside of school as well. So.
Okay, great stuff. And Habib?
All right, so my question to you, Tanda, is that as a professional in your industry, what are some of the things that you could have learned while you were doing your degree that you think would have helped you out as a profession when you started off?
What could I have done that? So I think that sort of is answered in the previous question. So just showing interest in being impactful as a person outside of your classroom activities. So again, it's leading specific, whether it's societies or groups or even outside of university, but showing that you've led specific things and that they've had impact, and also showing your entrepreneurial drive. I'll use myself as an example. I was leading Housecom. I was in the All Res Council. I led FinForum. I participated in the investments society, and I also started a startup while at university. And all of these things are things that you can speak to in an interview to show what initiative you've shown, you've shown, and what projects you've done outside of school, and how impactful you've been. And so that is almost a demonstration of how impactful you're likely to be within the role as well. So that's some of the things that you need to have done.
Okay, I think you spoke a lot about obviously background as an individual, but I think another question that's important, I think for me, is knowing, is Excel important? Like, what technical skills is someone supposed to have when entering this industry? And I think also just soft skills. Yes, leadership is one of them, but what other soft skills is someone supposed to have, or characteristics that would make you more employable in this field?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question, and it's a question that people don't ask as much as they should. So from a technical perspective, you learn a lot of what you need to learn within the job. So there are training sessions that they give you as you join, but it obviously does help quite a lot if you've done some stuff in the background. So knowing how to put together a slide on PowerPoint, it's very important, because that's how method that we use to communicate our ideas and our recommendations to clients. Being able to do some analysis or navigate Excel. I mean, you'll learn other things on the job, and also through the training sessions. But if you're able to navigate and have a basic understanding, I think that's good enough as well. And so that's from the technical perspective. From a soft skills perspective, I think this one is also very important. I think being a likable person it's a difficult thing to make, but it's definitely an important thing, because one thing that you find during the interview is they do what's called an airport test. And that means they assess you, they speak to you from a technical perspective, make sure that that's all done, make sure that you can do all the calculations that you need to do off the bat. And then while they're talking to you, one other thing they're assessing is, if I was stuck in an airport with this person in some random country in the world, would I be okay with being stuck with this person? Like, how are they as a person? How do they make me feel? And that's something that I guess you can learn, and how to like get along with other people. I mean, of course, you won't get along with everyone, but being able to be tolerant of other people. This is a very people's-driven industry. You sit with people all day a lot. I mean, when I was in the Middle East for the past few weeks, we sat in a room all day, every day for a few weeks. And it's important that you have soft skills to be able to engage with people, agree respectfully, disagree respectfully, be able to also present. I think one of the things that help quite a lot is if you've done some public speaking, presenting things, being able to speak through an idea and articulate your thoughts. Those are some of the soft skills that come in very handy, and you can see the difference that in impact that a person has have those skills, and versus a person who doesn't.
Okay. I think for me, the other question that I have is, what are the entry-level positions available in this line of work? Moreover, under what circumstance can one move up the hierarchy?
Yeah, so there are two types of entry-level positions, particularly within management consulting, and you find it across all management consulting firms. So we have what's called a business analyst. So that's when you join straight out of university after your honors degree. You go in, and it's basically right at the bottom. And you're in charge of all of the analysis and all the calculating of things, making sure that all the groundwork is done. And then you have also the internship, where a lot of the time it's when people are in university and business school doing what is it? They do postgrad diploma in management, for example, and they will do their internship while doing the postgrad. And then they, if they do well, they are given an offer to join as a business analyst the following year. So those are the entry levels. And then from an ascendancy perspective, and ascending the hierarchy, it takes about 1.5 years to 2 years to ascend from business analyst to senior analyst, which is where I am. And then it takes about 1.5 years again to 2 years, 15 to 18 months before you can become an associate. And then same amount of time to become a manager, but from manager upwards, it takes a bit longer. So it takes about 3 years, 4 years before you can become a principal, and then you become a partner thereafter. So it varies with time, and you're given a promotion window where you have to demonstrate some skill and some growth. And one of the things that exist within our industry is called up or out principle. So it's either you go up or you go out. It can get brutal. Usually people get through, but you do get some people where they struggle to develop and get to the next level. And so they are quite honestly asked to leave and pursue a career elsewhere. But they help you with that process as well. It's not as brutal as it sounds. Like they actually help you look for spots elsewhere, like an industry or something like that. So.
Okay, at least they're brutal, but also very nice in helping you. I don't know if any of my execs have other questions they'd like to ask.
I do actually. So I'd love to know what challenges that you found, what are the greatest challenges that you've found yourself recently faced with?
I think one of the challenges, within the role, right? So what you find a lot is, so you're in a space where you are with other high-performing individuals. Because of the way that people are recruited, you eventually find that the company is made up of people who are head boy or head girl at their school, and then they did so well at university. So everyone is there and everyone is competitive. And so competitive as well. And it can be a challenge sometimes. It can get a bit exhausting, but I think one of the ways to manage it quite well is to just plan out how your career is going to go and all the milestones that you need to reach for yourself. And then you just manage yourself and not really worry about other people, because it's easy for imposter syndrome, for example, to set in if you're just looking at everyone else the whole time. Other things, I think I don't see any other real challenges that exist other than the fact that you just have to be challenging yourself quite a lot on what you're doing, the quality of the outputs that you're generating, and how fast you're moving with things. I think that's something that you manage with yourself. When you're given a mentor within the firm, and you're given a buddy. So you always have support around you to assist you with your development and growth.
Okay, that was quite clear. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I don't know, Mohammed and Umpa, do you guys have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you, Matladzi and Masiho. My question that I'd like to pose again, you spoke a lot about analysis, having to do a lot of analysis. So I want to ask, how can we train ourselves to be analytical and and critical thinkers? Thank you.
I think that's a very good question. So I think in order to become more analytical, I think it's through practice, right? And I think if you read a lot and you read people's opinion pieces and people's analysis of what's going on in the world, you get to have an understanding of what analysis should look like. You're able to identify flaws in other people's analysis. I mean, if you read The Economist and things of that nature, you get you end up having a good view on what's happening in the world and how to analyze the things in context of others. One of the other things that help, particularly within the space that I'm in, is reading through what business schools publish. So when you interview for management consulting, you have to do what they call a case. So during the interview, it's usually an hour long. 30 to 40 minutes is spent. So they tell you company X wants to enter a specific country and launch a specific product. Help them to understand whether they should enter that country and whether they should launch this product and how much they're going to make. And that's something that initially it's a difficult thing to do, right? But if you read books like Case in Point, I know Harvard Business School releases a book as well. Like all the top tier business schools in the world release a case book where you can learn how specific business problems look, how to unpack the problem and chop it up into small pieces, and how to actually solve the problem and communicate the recommendations that you're giving. And so I find that helped me quite a lot. Like I spent a year reading through this type of material, and it helped me so much in being able to be analytical and critical in the thinking that I do.
So it seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done to enter. Let's talk about the money. Let's not shy away from learning about not how much you earn, but maybe the bracket, because I mean, there's traveling included. You work long hours. It's quite a competitive industry to be in. So for somebody who is starting, how much can they expect to earn? Can give us a range.
Yeah. So I think it varies quite a bit sometimes, right? So you have the South African management consulting firms, like the one that I started in, and then you have the global consulting firm. They're usually based in America, but they have offices all over the world. So in a South African firm, you can expect to start with a salary of around 300, 350 to up to 450 as entry level. How much does that equate to? I think it equates to around 30,000 rand take home as a start. And then from the global consulting firms, it's a bit more. So it starts between 450 to around 600,000 rand. That's usually the range that a lot of people start at. And I think it goes up every year. And I think you end up earning a little bit more than the rest of your peers generally. But also a lot more is expected of you as well. So it's, yeah.
All right, I'm definitely going to consider this. Habib, I don't know if you have a question.
All right, so my question would be like, what are some of your most memorable career highlights, and how do they come about to be like so memorable?
I think for me, having impact is very memorable. It's what matters to me, and so that's why it will become memorable for me. So a lot of the projects that I end up being all memorable. And I know this is not the answer you are looking to hear, but for example, when I still a while back, I worked on a model for a bank. A bank was our client, and I was asked to lead the development of a reporting model. And this reporting model ended up being taken up by the bank, and they rolled it out, and it was taken to the Reserve Bank. And it seems like other banks will also begin using this model. And for me, it was memorable because, first of all, it was tough, not easy to do. But developing something that is impactful enough that it can be rolled out in industry peers is memorable for me. Another memorable highlight for me was when I worked in a small team to develop a strategy for a new digital bank. So we sat down, we had to identify which customers this bank should go for, solutions they should have in the market, and how they should position themselves in the market. And it was all taken forward, and the bank hasn't launched yet, still going to launch, but knowing that I was part of developing something that is going to exist, basically, it's going to outlive me, is always impactful and a highlight for me. And then the last one is where I worked for a company. A company was our client, and they are in a small country. We went off there and assisted this company. This company was very important to that country's economy, and we were able to do a turnaround strategy for them and ensure that they drive their profitability up, drive their revenues up, and they wanted to make $1 billion, for example. And we came up with the strategy of how they're going to reach $1 billion. And knowing that you're going to have impact not only for a company, but for an entire country through the work that you do was a memorable highlight for me. And that's why I'm still very enthusiastic about being here and continuing with the work that I do.
Great, that sounds amazing. I think you've really covered most of our questions, but before I close the floor, I just want to ask again if anybody has questions. Okay.
I do. I have two last questions that I'd like to ask. First one being, what are some challenges that you have faced with the clients that you have worked with, or maybe with projects that you have worked with?
Okay. So sometimes you find that a client will be so happy that you guys are here as consultants, and they won't stick to what was agreed on from a scope perspective. So you guys are going to only look at our revenue generating initiatives, for example, and then they start asking you, can you please look at our costs as well? What's wrong with our costs? How do we become more efficient there? And you know, it can cause for you to end up having longer work days if you accept those types of things. So it's just some of the challenges are clients that don't want to manage the scope or keep to the scope. But that's something that you can manage yourself, or you can manage with the seniors. Just if you let the seniors know, they can go back and speak to the clients. We sit down and agree on what will be done and what's not going to be done within the time frame and what's being paid for. And so that's one of the challenges that you can have with the client. Sometimes you can have a client that's just never happy with the work that you do. And I mean, that can happen anywhere, but generally you don't find that. But I have heard stories about clients who just say, no, just give me deeper insights, give me more. But generally, through good engagement and management of expectations with the client, can get through those hurdles and even avoid them. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, my second question being that, what are some of the things that your profession requires that we don't automatically associate with the job?
I think one of the things that are that you wouldn't expect is that you have to create a brand of like what sets you apart from other people, and it helps quite a lot even with when you ascend. Like, what are you known for? Some people are known, like, I can model very well, call me to any project. If I can model the introduction of a new product, that's what I'll do well. Some people just know how to do different things and or like organize things well. But this is something that is very important for a person to be able to do, like create a brand for yourself, be visible internally and externally, like to the clients and to the people within the company as well. That is something that you wouldn't naturally expect, but it is definitely there. What else? I guess management of yourself and your goals and what you'd like to achieve, where you'd like to be. I guess that's something, maybe it's not something that's not associated, but it's something that's definitely for you to be able to, you have to think about those things. Yeah. And maybe something I have not touched on, it's not related to your question, but I'll just share anyway, like generally what you have to have studied in order to be able to do well, or what people generally recruit for, what the companies recruit for. So it's generally if you did business, so if you studied finance or you studied investments, generally those are the people that are recruited. But another big trend is that a lot of engineers and maths and statistics graduates get recruited quite a lot. And that's because they are taught problem solving, how to think through a problem and how to think about things in a process. So those people, their skills become very valuable within the space as well. So, yeah.
Okay, now I think you've shared quite a handful of information with us. But I think the last question, last one, is, well, you sound like you were more prepared going into this field. I mean, you were part of Housecom, you know, you had your leadership skills packed and everything, but general advice that you wish you had going into the industry, what would that be? And just general advice for any other student that wants to go into this industry.
Into this industry?
Yeah, in management consulting, yeah.
General advice that I wish I had got. I want to sound like I got all the advice, but I think just being prepared and being able to manage yourself is a very important thing. Learning how to manage everyone around you, because one way or another, you're managing the people around you. You have to manage your seniors, you have to manage your juniors. Just being able to be organized enough to ensure that if something needs to happen, it does happen. And for me, I wasn't necessarily preparing for management consulting when I was doing the leadership things. It's things that came naturally to me. Like I knew that I wanted to lead something. I wanted to lead FinForum. I wanted to start a startup because I genuinely had that interest, and a lot of the people around me are also similar in that way. And I think some of the things are things that you can't force, because if you force specific things, you'll end up being miserable. So doing what's natural to you. I think one of the last things I'll say, I guess, with regards to this is knowing where you want to be ultimately can help you a lot with the industries that you want to align with, because within a management consulting space, you find yourself working in projects in different industries. You'll do one for banking, you will do one for a telecommunications company, you'll do one for an energy company, like you'll be going to Sasol, doing something for Sasol, for example. And knowing where you want to be ultimately can help you identify which project you'll actually go out and look for, and try to speak to the partners who lead that industry so that you're more aligned to that, so that you, when you leave, you have the experience and the knowledge of the industry enough so that you can go and be an executive of that industry. And that's what happens quite a lot. So people, I think I should have mentioned as part of the trends to say, people don't stay in management consulting for a long time. They stay 2 to 3 years. Some people stay much longer when they're on the track to be a partner, but many others get called by industry where after you've spent 3 years, they call you up and say, go lead strategy for a bank, go lead strategy for a specific company in some industry, or you basically, the learning curve is so steep that after a few years of having worked there and you go do your MBA, you can get to go and be an executive of a company after only about 5 years of working, for example, which is It's not very usual, but it just shows what the learning curve is like and what you're expected to do in the role.
Very interesting. I don't know, last call, my execs. Is everyone fine? Okay.
Trying so hard to hold back. I really hope that we'll have some time off the video to extend the conversation, because there's just a lot. I am personally interested and I feel like this is for me. So yeah.
So that's great. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone after this. Yeah.
All right. Now, I think that sums up our interview. Above else, thank you very much for taking your time out of your Saturday morning to engage with us and to educate us. I think everyone really learned a lot about management consulting, and yeah, it was very insightful. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me. Happy to have a conversation any other time.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.